So we're back again, back for another stream on a Friday. I'm trying to get a lot more consistent my live streaming so I can actually beef up my podcast offerings. I'm going to be stepping into something where I'm going to be pretty much forced to be a lot more consistent with creating content. So, um, that being said, you're back with Blurting Wild Dad. On today's stream, we're going to talk about starting over with the website. I already told you all the story last time. If not, I'll give you a brief refresher. And then I'll revisit one of my old articles called The Weirdest Shit I've Ever Seen. And this one's about the Transformers, the OG Transformers movie, not the Michael Bay joints. So that's what we got. We'll jump to this intro and then I'll get right back to y'all. Starting over. So, for those that are unacquainted or those that this is your first time tuning in, my name is Brian. I am a black nerd and a dad. Henceforth, the name is Blurting While Dad. On this live stream slash podcast, I talk about parenting. I talk about black nerd related stuff, comic book, sci-fi, wrestling, wherever my ADHD addled brain takes me. And I even have an episode in the chamber about parenting with ADHD that I'm working on. I'm scripting that one out, so that one's going to be a little bit less stream of consciousness. Um, so I used to run a website called Long Boxing While Black, and the domain I still own the domain and everything, but you know, the website I allowed it to expire and it's gone. And a lot of my old writings are gone too. It started out just as a blog that I wrote my musings about comic books and movies and stuff, and kind of blossomed into social things and talking about parenting and a lot of other kind of related topics because I don't see folks out here living in an isolated bubble where your interests don't intersect with other interests, and that's kind of how my mind works. So anyway, I lost everything with the website. I did have my stuff synced to Medium, so some of my articles actually got saved, and that's why I was able to bring up the weirdest shit I've ever seen, because that's one of the articles that I actually wanted to do an episode about. So maybe this will be the test ground for a podcast about my experience watching the OG Transformer movie. Anyway, I went through kind of a stage of grieving with losing all that writing. That was kind of a time capsule of where I was mentally. I was at a job I wasn't feeling. I was looking at writing as an escape, and I was able to really pour myself into it. And I had a pretty decent writing schedule where I was writing a couple thousand words a week. And I was in a good flow. And then of course jobs change, responsibilities change. I got less time, but I'm still kind of cranking out stuff as I get it. And then I lost my mom, and that just kind of derailed all my interests. All the stuff that I thought was important didn't really seem important at the time, and it was hard to get back into the frame of mind where I'm writing about comics and stuff like that. So anyway, that's the story behind, the short story behind the blog. There's a lot more to it. I'm not going to go into it today. Now, the weirdest shit I've ever seen, and this is why I wanted to talk about this one, because they don't make movies like this anymore. And I'm not saying that just from a nostalgic bit. I'm talking about they literally do not make children's movies like this anymore. The OG Transformers movie, man. That was a big deal when it dropped, yo. The Transformers was part of my universe when I was growing up. It was on every day after school, like clockwork. There were like a billion episodes of it. Um, I had Optimus Prime. For some reason, I had Bumblebee. I had Cliff Jumper. I had a couple of the Constructicons and stuff. Like, I was invested in Transformers. I had the comic books, all that stuff. Was invested in the ecosystem. So when the movie dropped, we was hyped, yo. That was like, yo, the Transformers movie's out. Like that was like the buzz on the playground, right? And so our innocent, unknowing eyes went to go see what basically was like, it was like Hamburger Hill for kids or Full Metal Jacket for children. Nobody was prepared for what we saw in that Transformer movie. We had dealt with, we were little time, we saw Bambi and stuff like that. Like Bambi's mom got clipped. Oh, it's really sad. We all cry and stuff like that. But you didn't get a chance to see the life drain. You didn't get a chance to see the shot go off and see the life drain out of her eyes. You didn't really it didn't give you that in-depth, up close feeling that, 6-year-olds really need to see. They need to see their favorite characters with smoke coming out of their eyes and smoke coming out of their mouth. And, um, you know, that's what that's what the OG Transformers movie actually was. It was, and when I'm saying, like I said, they don't make stuff like that no more, bro. Still my universe now. Yeah. I mean, I'm with the Transformers, I'm still, IDW just lost the rights to Transformers comic books, but they for a while they had the best series of comic books, period, about Transformers. Like that was it. They had, actually, it wasn't just Transformers, it was the best written series of books out, period. And I'll die on that hill. The Transformers books that were coming out with IDW between like 2005 and 2000, and I almost want to say 19, were just amazing. And I was reading a lot of comics too, and nothing was touching the writing in those IDW comic books. The Transformers were amazing. So back to the thing. So anyway, I went out. We went to go see the movie. Now, it started out cool, it was updated, 80s rock version of the Transformers theme song. They do the credits are flying in, they stream it in, you're getting excited, you're getting pumped. You see Optimus Prime standing on the bridge, you see Laserbeak, you're like, all right, so we're about to watch a theatrical version of the Transformers. And all those dastardly Decepticons, they intercepting the Autobot ship. And then that's when all hell broke loose. we watching Prowl get shot and smoke coming out of his eyes. Like in old Transformers cartoon, man, people get shot all the time. They get shot and they have a little thing on them, and then little wound on them, little robot wound on them, and they hold their arm and they go back to they go back to the arc, and they cool. They get fixed up. Wheeljack fixes them up, or Ratchet fixes them up, and they cool. In that movie, them robots, those Transformers were dying hard, bro. Like I said, people getting shot, smoke spewing out of the face. Like I could still see Prowl with the smoke coming out of his eyes. I watched Brawn get shot dead in the face, point blank range. Just pow. I mean, Megatron just shot him dead in the face. It was one of the wildest things, and I wasn't prepared for how far this would go. I thought that, yeah, and I know what the executives are thinking, like, we got to kill off this whole line of toys so these kids will buy the new ones, but that wasn't the way to do it. You take a bunch of 6 and 7-year-olds and you put their favorite cartoon characters on the screen and you just massacre them all. Imagine if they did that to like Dora or something, where Boots just gets shanked up, in the first 20 minutes of the film. Boots gets shanked up and Dora, dies fighting Swiper. And her little cousin, who's also named Dora, has to take over the Dora mantle and go explore stuff. Yeah, they're losing the rights. So IDW already lost the rights. I don't know what company bought them, but it's another company. They have all the other Hasbro rights, but they lost the Transformers, which sucks because they seem to have a really good handle on the Transformers books, and they did a lot of world building with that. It was really kind of a dope thing. One of these days, I'm gonna get on here, and I know I'm gonna bore the hell out of y'all, but I'm gonna probably do maybe a series of deep dives into the IW Transformers mythos. If y'all interested, let me know in the comments if that's something you'd be interested in. Because I actually came in late to the party and started with Last Stand of the Wreckers, and Last Stand of the Wreckers was so wild, bro. That was one of the craziest storylines I'd ever read, and it was it was almost like a weird survival horror kind of thing. All right, yeah. So then I'll get that in the chamber. I'll definitely I'll get to working on that one. Um, but yeah, Last Stand of the Records was like this weird survival horror action thing. With the Wreckers, who are basically, Autobots' secret mission force or whatnot. And it showed the dark side of the Autobots and some of the evil stuff that they were into. Plus, it really boosted Overlord, who was like, if you took Megatron and gave him like Wolverine or Sabretooth's adamantium skeleton and made them just like killing, like that was all they existed for, was to kill other Transformers in the most brutal ways possible. That was Overlord. So basically take the Hulk, Sabretooth, and like Jason, you know, killing for the sport, just killing for the love of the game, bro. That's what he Overlord was, killing other Transformers for the love of the game. If you read Last Stand, the Records, what he did to Fortress Maximus was wild, bro. So anyway, but yeah, I'll take a deeper dive into that if y'all interested. I'll get that on the list and start scripting that one out. So anyway, I watched Prowl get shot, and I watched Brawn get shot in the face, bro. And I wasn't, I was like, damn, man, I'm little, I'm like kind of shell shocked by this. I ain't seen this level of violence yet. Predator hadn't dropped. I hadn't seen RoboCop yet. Those are my two favorite movies. I wasn't really prepared for what was coming next. And so we go to Earth and we see some irritating little kid. He was the new Spike, his Spike's kid, Daniel, he was exceptionally worthless. Like even in the third season of the US Transformers, he really provided no real value. Kind of like Spike, just no value whatsoever. He was just a manzel in distress to be saved by Optimus Prime or Bumblebee or whoever other Autobot was unfortunate enough to be stuck with babysitting Spike. And so Daniel was Spike's kid. And he's out there with Hot Rod and Cup, which were supposed to be the two new characters that we were supposed to identify with, right? And they're out doing stuff, I guess. And they realize that the Autobot ship's coming in. They look in and see there's a hole in the ship. I'm not going to reiterate the whole movie, but anyway, the Decepticons invade Autobot City. We're introduced to Springer, RC, Cup, and then we get to see the dead bodies of all these Autobots. Like pretty much, who was it? Windbreaker. Golly, I'm trying to think of who else. I just remember the dead Autobots, and I'm like, oh, I remember him, and I remember him. It was, I think it might have been Sunstreaker. It was the twins, the two that were supposed to be brothers. Their corpses are just laying out, and they're just dragging dead bodies of Transformers all over there, and that's jarring for a little kid to see. I just saw them on the cartoon yesterday, and they were fine, and in the movie now they're dead. So anyway, yeah, I heard Robert Kirkman's company is in talks to pick up the Hasbro stuff. Yeah, I don't know. I haven't heard about that, but I'm gonna look into it. Maybe I'll have some more news on it. Oh, hey Jack, thanks for tuning in, man. Yeah, maybe Kirkman might be able to pick it up. I don't know. Kirkman has a lot of Kirkmanism, so I want to see what he would do with the Transformers book. It will be interesting to see. I would like to see him hold on to the world that they kind of built in the IDW Transformers book, but we'll see. So they're dragging the dead bodies of these Transformers and stacking them, like just stacking them high, and RC has this look on her face like Jesus. And so anyway, I'll skip to the part that we all remember if we saw the movie. Optimus Prime, Megatron, the final battle, one shall stand, one shall fall. They duking it out, right? Optimus Prime gets the upper hand. he gets the blicky, gets the Optimus blicky, decides that it's time for Megatron to go. And Hot Rod, Megatron's about to grab a gun and shoot Optimus Prime. Hot Rod jumps in the way. Megatron yokes up Hot Rod, uses him as Autobot shield. Thanks for tuning in, Jack. Using my Autobot shield, has him in the yoke. Blast Optimus Prime a couple of times. Optimus Prime falls down, has a big hole in his, his little robot, his robot intestines are hanging out. Like, it got dark, And so, anyway, we'll skip past the fight. And I'm doing all this from memory, so you know how many times I've seen this movie. Skip past the fight. Megatron's out in space, and the other they're all, they're on Astral Train. Starscream kicks off all the ones that have been jacked up during Autobot City. And sends them adrift in space. The Autobots are all standing around Prime. He's on life support, more or less. He dies, turned gray, destroyed the whole movie theater, destroyed everybody. Kids are snotting, screaming, wailing, experiencing all the stages of grief at once. It was the wildest thing I remember from being a kid. And that was the first time seeing that kind of a reaction in a movie theater. Like I said, I was still little. Them kids was wilding out, bro. Like, and I was messed up, dude. I'm crying, and why is it gotta be Optimus Prime? And the thing that universally, all the kids that saw the Transformers movie, which is wild, that are adults now, all the kids that saw the Transformers movie and dealt with the death of Optimus Prime, we all hate Hot Rod. Like, we hate Hot Rod. We hate Hot Rod. We blame Hot Rod. It's Hot Rod's fault. And they didn't do a lot to redeem the character of Hot Rod, to be quite honest with you. I'll get to that. How they fumbled that bag in the end. But it was wild, man. And Toy Galaxy did a great, if you get a chance, he has a YouTube channel out there, Toy Galaxy, the history of the Transformers movie. They have all the backstage details and what the movie could have been versus what it actually was. It could have been a really good passing of the torch, introducing some new characters, advancing some storylines, really fleshing out a lot of the Transformers universe. And Hasbro saw it as a money grab where they could murk all the current Transformers and replace them with new ones, thinking that if we just if we just murder off all these Autobots and Decepticons, the kids will just forget about them, and then we'll just give them new Transformers to like. And that's how they figured it worked out. But it didn't. And it backfired in a major way. Like I said, to this day. And I promise you, and if you see, if you agree with what I'm saying, leave a comment here. Everybody that watched the Transformers movie that's around my age when it dropped hates Hot Rod, dude. Like, I just got over my Hot Rod hate just recently because he was a major character in the Lost Light series of Transformers books. And I think the More Than Meets the Eye series, he's a major player in there. And they did a lot of redeeming his character. But we hated Hot Rod, bro. And we blamed him for Optimus Prime's death. And it really was his fault. Anyway, they killed the old Transformers, but the ones they brought in for the second season managed to stick around. So I think Hound survived. Somehow Bumblebee made it. Jazz made it. Jazz was one of the few ones that made it from the very first season all the way through. And so anyway, the Decepticons get transformed into the Sweeps and Cyclonus and all of them. Megatron becomes Galvatron, gets a whole different voice. He flies to Cybertron. And then the next shocking death was watching him vaporize Starscream, just like, pow, just blast him, dude, turn into particles. Again, jarring. We were not ready for this, bro. They recently reviewed the storyboards that were supposed to show the tracks, and a couple of others. We used to yell at Ratchet for looking back in the eye, forgetting John leaving himself open to slaughter. That's what I'm talking about, bro. It was bad, and it was rushed. It seemed like, let's just get all these Transformers in here, all these Autobots, and let's just kill them. Fucking kill them. We just need to wipe the slate clean. We just need to get rid of them. They didn't think about the fact that kids were invested in the characters and not just the toys. They're just thinking about, well, the kids love the toys and that's why they like the show. No, the kids like the characters. That's why they like the show. You don't have to have a heck of a whole lot of depth for it, but the way that they phrased it was, and I believe one of the writers said, when it came to killing Optimus Prime, you can't kill the dad of the family on a television show and not have and just expect everybody just to kind of move on and find the new dad. You can't kill the centerpiece of the Transformer family, the one that makes sure everybody's doing right and treating each other right, and the main justice person, and just replace him. You know, man, it was a tough time. It was the 80s, bro. Like, it was the Reagan era. We didn't have a whole lot of role models, man. There was Mr. T, Hulk Hogan, for what it's worth, and Optimus Prime, man. That was it in the hood, man. That's who you had. Yeah, you had some athletes or whatnot, but really you had Optimus Prime, Mr. T, Hulk Hogan. Meals Junkyard Dog too. But that was it, man. And so, it was a tough time to deal with. And so our role models were thin. You killed off Optimus Prime and then you replaced him with Hot Rod. And I'll just skip to the end, bro. The reason why we didn't connect with Hot Rod, we wasn't vibing with Hot Rod, bro, because Hot Rod not only wasn't Optimus Prime, not only did he get Optimus Prime killed, Rodimus Prime was a stupid name. That's one. Two, he transformed into a station wagon with a trailer. Nobody wants that. I don't care what kid you ask. Hey, would you rather have this robot that changes into a semi truck with a trailer that has a tank and cannons that you can actually fire and all kinds of other cool stuff in it? Or would you rather have your mom's station wagon with a U-Haul attached to it? What you picking? I don't know who thought about this. I don't know if they thought that this was futuristic or whatever, but nobody wanted a station wagon, bro. That's what Hot Rod transformed into. It was so hard to get into in that third season of Transformers, bro. And plus, I got to deal with Hot Rod bitching and moaning the entire time. I'm not an optimist. I don't look like I'm a leader. I don't know. Nobody wants to watch that, bro. And so that's why that Transformers movie, it was kind of a signature moment, but it was also kind of the death of the franchise, at least that first generation one in America. That killed it, bro. Nobody wanted to see Hot Rod whining and go through his existential crisis every damn episode. And then, of course, there was the degradation in quality of the animation, the inconsistent, weird storylines, the fact that they were just introducing so many new characters at such a rapid clip that it was very hard to keep up with. And then that weird shortened fourth season, which was like the Headmasters one, which just didn't make a lot of sense. And then they centered Daniel, the character that nobody wanted to pay any attention to. They just kind of put him in there. And made him important when he really shouldn't have been important. They paired him with RC, which RC was cool. She was better in the comic books because in the comic books, she was just like this killer. Like, she was like this absolute, killing machine. And in the TV show, I don't know what her role was. I don't know what Springer's role was in the show. I don't know why it existed there. The Autobots were the Dinobots were played for comedy. There was so much stuff wrong with the once they moved to Cybertron in that third season on, that I could see why they ended up canceling the show, because it was just bad. It wasn't, the quality of it fell off of a cliff, and it all started with the movie. It was such a rush job. Instead of just giving us updated models of the Transformers, because hell, I had like 3 or 4 different He-Men. It didn't bother me. Battle Scar He-Man, where he gets the battle scars, and then the one with the cap guns that was setting little kids on fire and stuff. We had different models of the same character. I don't know why they couldn't just update the models of it. I wonder how Daniel transformed without breaking every bone in his exosuit. That's the $1 million question. I wondered that when I was little, and I still wonder it now. And I kind of wish it happened. because we would have to deal with him on many shows. Him in that goofy looking exosuit. They just had to put him in the exosuit just to give him something to do. Like I said, Spike was the damsel in distress on the old Transformers show, so Daniel had to be the one that always got captured and had to get saved and stuff. He was useless. He had no value to the show. He added nothing to the program. So yeah, I wondered about him in that stupid exosuit too. So anyway, they introduce Hot Rod. He transforms into this station wagon. It's a buzzkill. Nobody's really feeling it. Nobody really could figure out what Springer was. Springer transformed into a car and a helicopter. And in the old Transformer series, that would have been something that was remarkable. Okay. My Autobot double changer was mind blowing. Hell, I remember Six Shot, and when they had the triple changers and stuff, that was amazing. They didn't even mention that, bro. Ultra Magnus was just kind of there. And in the comic book, he was just kind of there. But in the show, he was really just kind of there. He really probably should have been the guy that got the Matrix instead of Rodimus Prime, just out here being useless. And ugh. Here's the thing that could have worked out. If they would have got Rodimus some therapy so he could deal with the survivor's guilt so we didn't have to play out on the show, that would have made things a lot better. But anyway, my overall narrative about the Transformers movie was it wrecked it. When I say they'll never make another movie like that again for kids, they won't. You won't see it because I don't think there'd be so much outrage behind that, bro. It wouldn't happen. You couldn't have that. And it's good. Because if I was a parent back then, taking my kids to the Transformers movie, thinking that they're going to get to see their favorite Autobots and Decepticons fight for survival and stuff, and it turns into an absolute wholesale slaughter where they're watching their favorite characters get shot in the face and have their robot guts hanging out, I wouldn't be happy either. And it was kind of, and I joke about it, but that movie was actually kind of traumatic for a lot of kids. And there was something about filmmakers in the 80s that was really cool. They were really cool with traumatizing little kids. You know, and I think it had to do a lot with the PG rating, because PG meant that you could pretty much do anything except show full-on nudity. And even there was still nudity in PG movies, but you could pretty much say almost any cuss word and do anything. That R rating was hard to get, and there was no PG-13 rating at the time. But it was kind of a jarring thing. And like I said, I joke about it now, but it was really kind of messed up, bro. Like I said, imagine, imagine, I'm trying to think of some little kid shows. Like if Team Umizoomi, this is my kids. I'm dating myself. This is my kids. If they had a Team Umizoomi movie and the robot just went nuts and killed the boy on Team Umizoomi, and his sister had to exact revenge. That's kind of what the Transformers movie was. It was a super weird, a lot of adult things in a kids movie, and it wasn't really tailor-made for kids consumption. It was just made to sell toys. So it was wild, and it was one of the weirdest freaking movies I've ever seen. And it's so weird that it kind of imprinted on me, like, and so I kind of got this fascination with weird ass films. And I always look for the oddball kind of movies that are hard to explain or anything. And here's the other thing about the Transformers movie, before I get too far on that tangent. It screwed up the G.I. Joe movie, because the reaction to the Transformers movie was so unexpected, and it was negative, and not because it was poorly written. It was negative because of the shocking deaths in it, that they scrapped the theatrical release for the G.I. Joe movie. They got rid of it because they were going to kill Duke, and they did. But they re-edited it to make Duke be in a coma, but they stabbed him right in the heart. In the original cut, he got it right in the heart, and Duke died. And Don Johnson, his little brother, Lieutenant Hawk, or Lieutenant Falcon, that's who it was. Was it Lieutenant Falcon? I think it was Falcon's little brother or something like that. Anyway, he took over this brand new character that came out of nowhere. And they introduced a bunch of new characters. Jinx, my boy Big Lob, who was just an oddly just some basketball player who had grenades. It didn't have to make sense, bro. They just introduced him. And basically it was them replacing one toy line and introducing a new toy line. But they scrapped all the plans for the G.I. Joe movie because they saw how negative things went for the Transformers movie. But like I said, nobody was really prepared for it, and it's kind of sad to think that they'll never make another movie like that. But I wouldn't want my kids to go through that, dude. I wouldn't want them to see their favorite characters just get brutally offed. Like if they did a Ben 10 movie and just brutally murdered everybody, I wouldn't want my kids to experience that. But that was a special time in the 80s, man. There was just this weird area of neglect for children where they just didn't really care about our emotional well-being. They were worried about censoring us from magic and stuff like that. But brutal character deaths on show, shoot, yeah, sign me up. Naked Thundercats in the first episode, knock yourself out. But that magic's too much. You can't have that magic, because the devil might get into you. The third season, that special part in my childhood. Prime came back twice. I was super hyped, even creeped out by the first combat where he's a yeah, they brought him back to kill him again, bro. He was evil, I think it was almost like the basis for the Nemesis Prime thing in the comic book, and I guess in the movie for whatever reason. But they brought him back as a Walking Dead zombie, and he is evil, right? And then he flew into the sun and melted. But the outrage was so much, and the outcry about bringing Prime back was so big that they just had to bring him back. They couldn't leave him dead, and somebody had to rescue us from Hot Rod out here being lame, bro. Transforming into a station wagon. Nobody wanted that. I don't understand the thinking of that. I'm still baffled by the thing. If somebody can explain the concept, when were station wagons ever cool? Like when you were a kid and you bought hot rod, those little hot rod vehicles, did you like, yo, man, let me get that station wagon pack, I'll trade you this Lamborghini for your station wagon. Nobody wanted that. There's so many different vehicles they could have turned Rodimus Prime into. They transformed him to a station wagon with a U-Haul on the back. What? Anyway, you can still, as y'all can see, I still could get kind of upset about that. Like I said, they killed. Okay, so I'm going through my article. They killed Wheeljack off screen. Wheeljack didn't even get any screen time, bro. They just killed him. They killed Wheeljack and gave us Perceptor and made him kind of a main character from that forward. Nobody wanted Perceptor, bro, because it was weird. Like, so he transforms into a microscope, right? How big is he? Is he a microscope for Transformers? Is he a microscope for humans? And they just had to try find different ways to make it functional. It didn't make any sense. Wheeljack, we had Blaster, Blaster was cool. Blaster was kind of weird, but Soundwave was weird. Soundwave was kind of a weird thing. How big is this boombox, bro? This is a 20-foot tall robot. He transforms into a boombox I can carry around. That boombox must weigh 20 tons. How does this work? Anyway, they killed off our character. They killed off a lot of characters off screen. And Wheeljack was one of my favorites, bro. I liked Wheeljack. They decided that we didn't need him anymore. And then some of the characters they showed were dead showed up alive later on in the movie. I want dub versions of the Japanese. Yeah, the dub. Okay, so I actually watched some of the Japanese versions of the Transformers after, from the fourth season on. Bizarre isn't the word to describe it, bro. Like, it was bizarre. And I know it ran for a long time. Those shows were bizarre. And I don't know where I found them, how I stumbled across them, but I watched a bunch of them. And they were so weird. And not weird by anime standards, just weird by general standards. Like, it was a weird show. They added so many different wrinkles into it. The Power Masters thing didn't really make any sense. is he or isn't he Optimus Prime thing didn't make any sense. The Pretenders didn't make a ton of sense. Like there's a whole line that they came out with after the fact that just didn't make any goddamn sense whatsoever. But and I don't know how it would have flown in America. I mean, I know that they edited for, when they bring over shows, when they back in the 80s before anime in the United States was popping, they would edit Japanese made cartoons for the American market, and they would remove references that localized it. So, people were eating with knives and forks instead of chopsticks. Elements of culture were different elements of culture were kind of imported into the show to make it seem more of an American thing. But the fourth season on, it wasn't even weird because it was a different culture. That didn't have anything to do with it. It was weird because it was weird. um, but yeah, it would be dope to see somebody actually, because there's so many different Transformer shows right now out there, to be quite honest with you. It'll be dope to see somebody actually revisit Generation 1 and start there with no Beast Wars, none of that other stuff. Revisit Generation 1 and just retell the whole story. A modern version of retelling of the story. And then we could actually get some of the pieces right. The creation of the Dinobots and the characterizations of the Dinobots. There's certain things that they could do if some enterprising individual would just restart Generation 1 of the Transformers and just start there instead of trying to add new wrinkles to it. That would be dope. Robotech, yeah. Robotech, Voltron. Voltron's another one that was combined from multiple. They weren't even the same shows, bro. They were just completely different shows, and they just brought them all together and put them in the American market. And seasons 1 and 2 didn't have anything to do with each other. And season 3 tried to tie the two strings together, and they did. But yeah, Robotech was another one. I forgot what the original name of Robotech was or what the shows were, but I remember Robotech feeling disjointed. It was hard to get into. But the Transformers thing, I would love to see somebody redo all of it, all the way up to the movie, because Unicron, the entire Unicron thing is fascinating. It's played out in the comic books a lot. The Unicron is the Galactus of the Transformer universe, and seeing them all come together to fight Unicron was really kind of interesting. The way that they dismissed him or the way they got rid of him was dumb. I'm honest, it was dumb. Till all are one, they open up the Matrix, it blows him up, and then that's it. And his head is floating around Cybertron for future episodes. I think they could have done a little bit more with that. Or you could have actually done something with Hot Rod and made him a compelling character that people want to follow, and have him transform into something that's not a station wagon with a U-Haul attached to it. Give the Dinobots something to do. I know the Insecticons weren't really that big of a deal, but maybe have something to do for the Insecticons instead of just having them transform into the Sweeps, who are basically like the Cobra Troopers of that Transformer universe. There were like thousands of them. They didn't really have distinct personalities, and they were just cannon fodder to get blown up. So there's a lot they could have done with that first generation of Transformers books, and I would like to see an animated version of that. Um, have less focus on the irritating humans. Actually have Spike be competent and be able to do something. If they do a time skip, not have Daniel at all, or have him as a super background character that doesn't really do anything. Those changes I would love to see. To be quite honest, I would love to see a remake of the OG Transformers movie, based on them rebooting the Generation 1 franchise. I would love to see that. Because to be quite honest, we do need some rescue from the Michael Bay Transformers movies because they're weird as shit. And it's wild because people make fun of how violent the Michael Bay Transformers movies were, but the precedent was set with the OG Transformer movie. That was one of the most violent movies I've seen. And Michael Bay has his own quirks with the Transformers, like the constant racist little mammy bots that they have in there. I'll never forget the little gold tooth robot, and then the two little gold tooth robots, and then the one that said, You know, they talk with the black accent and they brag about, well, we can't read. You know, they're tap dancing. Michael Bay has his quirks, but I would love to see something to counterbalance his take on the Transformers movies because um, it's about time to reboot the whole thing and let's start from Generation One and let's make it make sense. But again, oh, the Bumblebee. See, I haven't seen the Bumblebee movie, man. I had given up on the Transformer franchise after that one, the second one with Marky Mark, and they brought in Unicron. I checked out of those Transformers movies. I couldn't take anymore. My brain couldn't take anymore. The incessant focus on human beings is it just centering people in this and making human beings the crux of what changes the battle. These people, the Autobots and Decepticons have been fighting for millions and millions of years, but somehow human beings have to be centered in the story and make them a focal point, a fulcrum of the whole story. It just irritated me. And the fact that they didn't even really focus on one or two human beings. It was like they bring in new people every single time. Whenever somebody got sick of Michael Bay, they bring in, you know, when uh Shia LaBeouf became Shia LaBeouf the meme, he wasn't in the movies no more, and then they bring in Marky Mark, and we're supposed to care about him. I'm supposed to care about Cade. I don't even know who he is. I don't have any real backstory on him. I don't know who he is or what he does. He has showed up in the movie and they're like, well, he's an inventor. Why is he here, bro? And why do we have to have so much about him? I don't care about him. I don't care about his daughter. I don't care about any of these people. Why are they in this movie? The only consistents were the military cast. They just should have focused on the military cast and let the civilians out of it, to be quite honest with you. But anyway, I would love to see. You know, I might have to go catch the Bumblebee movie. Um, yeah, I might have to catch the Bumblebee movie just to finish the pain. Um, I heard it wasn't too terrible, so I don't want to crap all over the Bumblebee movie before I saw it. But the Michael Bay Transformers movies did more to kind of ruin the franchise for a lot of people than anything because they took a franchise that was well thought out, well considered, and really just added a bunch of crap to it. Made Optimus the most bloodthirsty killer, where he's snatching off people's faces and give me your face and I'll kill you. You know, stuff that the OG Optimus Prime would never really say. I can't imagine Optimus back in the day screaming "I'll kill you" to somebody. It just doesn't really line up. So hopefully they can get it. I want them to move it more towards the comic books because I think the comic books, if they're not going to reboot the whole G1 franchise, at least use the IDW comic books as some kind of basis because they did a lot of really good world building in those IDW Transformers books, bro. Just how the robots interacted with each other, how Transformers are actually born or created, whether they're forged or cold cast, the different power levels of the Transformers. They explained why Optimus Prime is the most powerful, Megatron is the most powerful of the Autobots and Decepticons, respectively. They actually explained that and what made them more powerful, what made Grimlock such a threat, a persistent threat to all the Decepticons. And then they introduced things like the Decepticon Justice Division, the Phase 6 Decepticons, whose job it was to go and crush the last resistance of planets that they were conquering. And they explained it that they were super weapons and things like that. They put a lot of narrative behind the Transformers, so it just wasn't something that just happened. Optimus Prime wasn't the strongest just because he was the biggest. Because in the comic books, there are people bigger than him, but Optimus Prime was one of the strongest. He was kind of like the Wonder Man or even the Hulk. Well, not the Hulk. I think more like the Thor of the Transformers universe, where he was just stronger than everybody else because that's how he's built. I mean, that's how that was his special power. Like that was kind of something he was born with. Megatron was stronger because that's something he was born with. So anyway, I rambled on long enough. The Transformers The OG Transformers movie was definitely one of the weirdest things I've ever seen in my life. Um, Thanks for tuning in. Brian. I'm still working on the episode about parenting with ADHD. I got that one coming up. I got the episode coming up about dealing with the sense of loss from losing the website and how I'm moving forward with that. I got a couple of live feeds that I want to do, live streams where we talk about um, black masculinity in the nerd space, which is a weird, interesting kind of intersection because I see a lot of weird machismo bullshit and misplaced energy. Like I got picked on as a kid, so now that I'm an adult, I'm seeking vengeance on all the people that wronged me. Kind of energy in the black nerd space, and so I want to talk about that stuff too. So those are episodes I got coming up. Again, when I get things settled a little bit more on my end, we're going to start seeing some of these in more of a podcast form because I'm starting the podcast again. The video component was nice, but um, you know, having an audio podcast, I think, kind of suits my style too. So anyway, that's all I got. Thanks for tuning in. Love y'all. Thanks for tuning in live stream. Share this if you got any Transformers nerds in your circle. I'd love to hear their feedback on it too. Talk to y'all later. Thanks for tuning in. Peace.